Hello everyone, this is Mohan Kumar PS signing in today to talk about thermoregulation, methods of heat loss and heat gain. So today we shall understand and learn the basics of temperature regulation in home terms by trying to know how a body loses heat or gains heat. So at the end of the class, we should have a thorough knowledge about how a homeotherm loses heat and gains heat in the body. So we shall cover definition, what homeothermy is, what poikilothermy is, and what ectotherms are, what endotherms are, and methods of heat loss and heat gain in thermoregulation. To talk about definitions, I have put two pictures here, ectothermy and poikilothermy together and endothermy and homeothermy together. There will be slight modifications, so I have put them together in an interlinking manner. So poikilothermy or a poikilotherm is an organism that does not maintain a fixed internal temperature, but rather fluctuates based on their environment and physical behavior. Whereas an ectotherm use external source of temperature to regulate their body temperatures. They are colloquially referred to as cold-blooded animals or poikilotherms, despite the fact that body temperature often stays within the same temperature range as warm-blooded animals. So that is why they are interlinked, ectothermy and poikilothermy. Their meaning almost similar. Whereas endothermy and homeothermy or homeothermy. Homeothermy is the thermoregulation that maintains a stable internal body temperature regardless of external influence. This internal body temperature is often, though not necessarily, higher than the immediate environment. Whereas endotherms maintains a constant body temperature, endotherms create most of the heat via metabolic processes and are colloquially referred to as warm-blooded animals or homeotherms itself. An endotherm is an animal that regulates its own body temperature, typically by keeping it at a constant level. But there's a small difference. Homeotherms are not necessarily endothermic. Some homeotherms may maintain constant body temperatures through behavioral mechanisms alone. Example, behavioral thermoregulation. Okay. The body temperatures of humans remains relatively constant despite changes in the environmental temperature. So that is thermoregulation. No matter what, the body temperature is relatively or constantly maintained at around 37 degrees centigrade in case of humans. Okay, so in case of humans, within the body there is a core region and also peripheral region or the shell region, we can say. So this homeothermy applies only to the core temperature, that is around 37.1 degrees centigrade to be more precise, of the body. The extremities and skin, that is a shell, exhibit poikilothermy. Their temperature varies to some extent with environmental temperature. Simple as, because during winter your body tends to lose heat faster than during summer. So you would respond to the external temperature, ambient temperature, during different seasons of the year. Okay, definitions apart, thermoregulation. What is thermoregulation? To maintain a constant core temperature. The body must balance the amount of heat it produces and absorbs with the amount it loses. This is thermoregulation. So I'll give you a few examples how a mammal would regulate heat in their body. Like a kangaroo would lick its arms to cool down on a very hot day. As animals with a body covered by fur have a limited ability to sweat, relying heavily on panting to increase the evaporation of water across the moist surfaces of the lungs and the tongue and mouth. Example, dog. Dog would lose heat basically through panting because the whole body is covered with fur. Man and horses are having sweat glands. Evaporation of water either across the respiratory surfaces or across the skin in those animals possessing sweat glands helps in cooling the body temperature to within the organism's toleration range. Whereas mammals like cat, dogs and pigs rely on panting, as I said earlier, and man and horse rely heavily on sweat glands. Mammalian skin is much thicker than that of birds and often has a continuous layer of insulating fat beneath the dermis. In the marine mammals, if I have to speak about whales or seals or walruses, which animals live in the cold regions, as polar bears also, it is called blubber. Blubber. Dense coats found in desert endotherms also aid in preventing heat gain, such as in the case of camels. So, whether heat gain or heat loss, the heat has to be balanced out in the body. So that is what thermoregulation is. So the heat exchange processes, the living body constantly produces heat and this must be transferred to the environment. Heat balance or thermal equilibrium is the balance between the rate of heat production and the rate of heat loss. So what is heat gain? Heat gain, the rate of heat production is equal to M minus W, where M is the total rate of energy production which can be found from the rate of oxygen consumption. Basically this is through oxidative phosphorylation, MS. So it says 1 liter of oxygen is equal to 5 kilocalories, that is equal to 20,000 joules, or 1 calorie is equal to 4.184 joules, or 1 kilocalorie is equal to 1000 calories. Anyway, W is the rate at which external work is being performed. Say for example, you do a physical activity by moving a chair from one place to another place. Okay, so that is what is described in force into distance. But for humans, it can also be a mental work. It need not be physical work, it can also be mental work. So we will discuss this when we know how heat loss or heat gain is regulated, or what part of the brain uses more of energy to generate heat in our next class. So in this class we should restrict ourselves to rate of heat production is equal to M minus W. So M is the rate of energy production, whereas W is the rate at which external work is performed. So heat production, heat is produced by the total energy produced in the body minus work energy. So that is the heat which is generated. Now coming to heat loss, how do we lose heat from the body? Rate of heat loss is equal to RCELKS. So what are these? Where R is the radiation. Radiation is the heat loss or gain, more preferably heat loss, between skin or clothing surface and surrounding surfaces. Example, walls and sun, etc. At first, in a thermoneutral environment around 20 degrees centigrade, 60% of the heat lost from the nude body is by radiation. C is convection. Air close to the body absorbs heat, which is a form of conduction to the surrounding air, and is the heat loss by the mixing of air close to the body surface, which is of two types. So the convection is of two types. Natural convection, which is in still air, the body produces an upward flow of warm air. Whereas the number 2 is forced convection, which is the movement of air past the body. That is example, wind. So L is warming and wetting of air, which is inhaled and then exhaled. That is through respiration. K is conduction to the surface by direct contact with skin or clothing. So this is conduction. S is the rate of storage of heat in the body, which is usually nil when the heat is balanced out. So heat balance equation, what is it? Heat balance exists when heat gain is equal to heat loss. This is M minus W is heat gain, RCEL KS cumulatively it is heat loss. So RCK is equal to 72% heat loss. That's the majority of the way in which heat is lost, whereas evaporation from the skin is around 15%, and heat is also lost from 3% through excretion of feces and urine. And through lungs 7% is exhaled out and 3% warming is inhaled. So in this equation, ideally S should be equal to 0 when the body is in heat balance. That is, heat production is equal to heat loss with no storage. In practice, the body rarely attains or maintains heat balance, and many factors influence the relative importance of the heat exchange processes. We will study those factors when we talk about heat regulation or thermoregulation from the central sensor of the body, that is hypothalamus. So methods of heat gain. How do we gain heat? The amount of heat produced is determined by energy metabolism. At rest, approximately 56% of the total heat production occurs in the internal organ and about 18% in the muscles and skin. During physical exercise, heat production increases several fold, and the percentage of heat produced by muscular work can rise to as much as 90%. To keep warm, the body may have to generate additional voluntary and involuntary muscle contractions. Voluntary contractions can be limb movement. You move from place A to place B. And whereas involuntary can be shivering. Newborns also have a brown fat, which enables them to produce additional heat without shivering. So you must have noticed the infants not shivering. That is because it is burning of the brown fat. Cold stimulates the reflex pathway, resulting in norepinephrine release. So norepinephrine release, they can only reach the tissues on 3 receptors, that is 3 adrenoreceptor, adrenergic receptors, alpha, beta and delta type of receptors in fatty tissues, which in turn stimulates lipolysis, that is lipids get mobilized and glycogenolysis happens, that is glucose is synthesized from the non-glucose substrates like fat, lipolysis, and the expression of lipoprotein lipase again to work on the lipid metabolism, and thermogenin UCP1. LPL, that is lipolysis, increases lipoprotein lipase increases the supply of free fatty acids, whereas thermogenin is localized in the inner mitochondrial membrane, is an uncoupling protein that couples as an H plus unipolar, which works opposite to the proton gradient in the mitochondria. Proton gradient is necessary for ATP production. If there is another unipolar which works in the opposite direction, it would usually short circuit the H plus gradient across the inner mitochondrial membrane. Thereby the uncoupling or heat producing respiratory chain of ATP production. So heat produced in the body is absorbed by the bloodstream and conveyed to the body surface in order for this internal flow of heat to occur. The temperature of the body surface must be lower than that of the body interior. The blood supplies to the skin is the chief determinant of heat transport to the surface or skin. Now we look at this picture, what I just spoke about. This picture would depict the percentage or relative contribution of organs to body weight and heat production. So this is the body weight, percentage of body weight. So if it is considered 100%, so the 56% of the body weight constituted by skin and muscles, whereas 34% thoracic and abdominal organ, and 2% by the brain, and 8% by the other organs. Only 2% by the brain. This is yellowish in color. If you look at this part, see, percentage of heat is produced by the brain is around 16%. 2% body weight, 16% heat produced. Whereas the other part, 8%, it can only generate around 10% of heat produced. Whereas thoracic and abdominal organ generate around 18%, skin and muscle generate around 56%. If you know this also gets reversed during physical exercise. This thoracic and abdominal organs, if you look at it, it is producing only 18% at rest. But during intense physical exercise, it can generate up to 90% of the heat. Whereas 8% is contributed by the thoracic and abdominal organs only. Remaining are very minimum, so we shall not talk more about this. So, methods of heat loss. What are the ways in which we lose heat? Heat loss occurs by the physical process of radiation, conduction, convection, and evaporation mechanisms. So what is radiation? The amount of heat lost by radiation from the skin is chiefly determined by the temperature of the radiator, that is the body itself. Heat net radiates from the body surface to objects or individuals when they are cooler than the skin. That is and net radiates to the body from objects that are warmer than the skin. Basically, from a very hot body to a cooler body, heat would transfer from one body to another body. Heat radiates from the body into the environment when no radiating object is present, that is during the night sky. Whereas heat radiation does not require the air of any vehicle and is hardly affected by the air temperature, that is, air itself is a poor radiated air. Therefore, the body loses heat to a cold wall. Despite the warm air in between, if you touch a cold wall, you would radiate the heat from your body to the cold wall and absorb radiation from the sun or infrared radiator without air or cold air respectively in between. The body radiates like a fire. You can feel heat without being inside the fire. In fact, bodies can lose heat even in 70 degrees weather also. Here the picture depicts about 50 degrees centigrade, where 50 degrees centigrade outside ambient temperature, if it is there, the body would take in that extra temperature and your body temperature extra. So overall body temperature is quite high, so you radiate more heat from the body. And 40 to 45% of the body heat is lost to the head and neck due to the increased blood flow in comparison with the rest of the body. Combined with the wrist and ankles, this can approach 60%. These areas need not be covered at all. So this is how the radiation would affect the heat loss from the body. Next is conduction and convection. Conduction, these processes involve the transfer of heat from the skin to cooler air or a cooler object that is sitting on a rock in contact with the body, that is through conduction. You conduct from one part to another part to a solid object such as rock here. It is similar to radiation, except rather than losing heat to the environment in case of radiation, the heat is transferred to another object or surface. Solid objects such as metal pole or the ground, can steal heat from your body much more effectively than air. In fact, you lose heat about 30 times faster when submerged in water than standing in air. 75 degree Fahrenheit in air feels comfortable. 75 degree Fahrenheit in water feels cold and can cause hypothermia. Convection. The amount of heat lost by conduction to air increases greatly when warm air moves away from the body by natural convection. That is, heated air rises. Okay, or even it can also happen through post convection, that is a wind. If it is a stagnant air, it would rise upward. If it is a wind, if it's a breeze, then it's a post convection. An example, consider a fan. When you are sitting in your home and you are a little warm, you may turn on the fan to help circulate the air. The moving air brushes by your skin. When it does, it takes a little bit of your heat with it. Then, having moved along, more air brushes by, taking more of your heat. The more air, the wind, the more heat loss. This is sometimes called as wind chill, and it can be devastating for the survivor in cold climates. So, evaporation. Although first three mechanisms, that is radiation, conduction and convection, describe about heat loss, the evaporation is also another factor which would play a role in heat loss. And evaporation is the means by which the body copes with the additional heat. The water lost by the evaporation reaches the skin surface by diffusion, which is insensible perspiration. And that also happens in your lungs. I'll talk about it later. That is through respiration, and by neuron activated sweat glands. About 2428 kilojoules, that is around 580 kilocalories approximately, of heat is lost for each liter of water evaporating and thereby cooling the skin. At temperatures about 36 degrees centigrade or so, heat loss occurs by evaporation only. At even higher environmental temperatures, heat is absorbed by radiation and conduction or convection. The body must lose large amounts of heat by evaporation to make up for this. The surrounding air must be relatively dry in order for heat loss by evaporation to occur. If it is humid air retards evaporation, it stops evaporation. When the air is extremely humid, like in a tropical rainforest, the average person cannot tolerate temperatures above 33 degrees centigrade, even under rustic conditions. That is why the moment you go to a coastal region and you start sweating, it is so discomforting. Although the temperature is actually lesser than what we see here, if it is 36 degrees centigrade here, it would be around 33 to 32 degrees centigrade in the coastal region, because you are next to a sea. But since it is so humid, the evaporation would not take place. You tend to sweat a lot, and the sweat would tend to stay on your body itself. So that is why the discomfort arises. Respiration, as air is warmed then exhaled, resulting in a significant source of heat loss. As oxygen is transferred to your bloodstream and carbon dioxide is transferred out, when you breathe air, bringing in cold air from the outside into your lungs, your body warms the air. When you exhale, you are releasing the warmed air into the surrounding environment. That is heat loss through the respiration. So this picture would truly depict cool ambient air and warm exhaled air, because ambient air would pick up the heat from the body and the warm exhaled air actually takes away. That is a mode of heat loss. Compared to the first four sources, heat loss through respiration is relatively minor, but still you should be aware of it. A light covering over your face will help pre-warm some of the air before bringing it into your lungs. So this is about thermoregulation introduction, methods of heat loss and heat gain. I believe you have understood the modes of heat gain and heat loss, or the methods of heat gain and heat loss. Any doubts or clarification, leave a comment in the comment box or message me. Thank you.